Hi, it's Joshua Lang here. Today we're going to look at a sweet pop song that I produced and wrote for a female artist. The song is mostly acoustic instruments with a more of a minimalistic instrumentation, I would say. So not many instruments in this one, but we can look at how to utilize and add depth and texture to a production using only a few instruments. So let's look into this song. I'm going to play starting from the first verse. The intro and verse 1 are basically identical. So just to keep things simple, let's listen to verse 1 and verse 2. Okay, so right from the get-go, it set the stage on the main riff, main melodic motive for this entire song. Now, as you can notice, it's actually comprised of kind of like two guitar parts. There's this one. Yes, and then there is this harmonics on the acoustic guitar. And just these two things together is like this. When I was writing this song, because I don't play the guitar, so I actually did that in my VST. And I wanted something that has an acoustic guitar, arpeggio pattern added on top using a harmonics. Now, if you notice, a harmonics can actually sound I'll say kind of dry by itself. If you take a listen to how it actually sounds like, it's like this. Yeah, so same for, even if you do it on a VST, it's going to sound something like this. So I wanted something that has a very airy ambient texture. So we added these. So let's take it listen one by one. Let's just listen to this one so we can focus. Okay, so with a big part is with this plate together. Okay, so actually let's do both of them. So I think they're panned left and right. So yeah, so each of them has this echo buoy on it. There's a dotted 8. I think they're very similar. And then there is this plate down here. Let's take a listen. Yeah, it's a Dirty Hall setting. By the way, if you want to grab the presets for this, I've made it available in our community. So you can come grab it for free. It's under the signature presets. So, and together, these two things. Yeah, together it set the stage on this melodic idea. And I really like it. I think the arpeggio part, acoustic guitar arpeggio part, creates that intimacy. And then the harmonics is like just painting the picture, painting that airy picture in the background. I really like that contrast. So that's the main idea. So let's move on to A1B. Here the energy picks up a little bit. And instrument-wise, it's the same thing, but the acoustic guitar one has a little bit more of a pedal note on the bass. Yeah, it is actually very important to have variation among sections. Starting with A1B, the rhythm starts to pick up, and so the energy started to pick up. If this is exactly the same as A1, the audience is going to get bored immediately. Now let's listen to B1, the pre-chorus. Okay, this beautiful cello, we recorded a real cellist. Actually, she's a friend of mine, a very, very amazing cello player, and we recorded her at a studio. So I just took off the reverb so you hear how it sounds like without anything on it. So this is the plate reverb we have. So back to the pre-chorus here. Yeah, if I take off the reverb, this is how the guitar sounds like. Yeah, but with the reverb, it really set the stage for it. Yeah, one of the reverbs is this smooth plate right here. Adding that reverb really helps it sit in the mix. Yeah, so there are these reverb here too. So that's the one. It's actually a very short reverb. Okay. And as you notice, there's automation here on the volume. And that's very common. Sometimes because, without, okay, let's say without the automation. Yeah, the tail, because it dies down really quickly, having that automation really helps it. Yeah. So, yeah, sometimes you don't need, there are different ways to solve this. Some people will be like, let's just put a compressor on it. I mean, that could work, but it might also change the flavor and vibe of the song, and automation sometimes is the way to go if you want something that you can control the tail precisely. So yeah, so that's the pre-chorus. So let's take a listen to the chorus. This chorus is kind of interesting. I'll play it for you first. I call it C1 and D1. So like you can think of it as like the chorus and then the post-chorus. Let's listen to that. Yeah, so in this particular chorus, I wanted to try something that's more of a double time, has more of an uplifting vibe to it. So it's a little bit different from the verse where it's kind of like airy and ambient. I wanted something that kind of picks up the pace. So yeah, that's the reason I did that. And then in the post chorus, I wanted something that besides that rhythmic energy, I wanted something that actually has a sustain, with the Rhodes, with some more chords, and even some more like guitar strumming. The drums are actually very simple in this one. There's a snap here. There's a bass part. So there's a bass FX here. We use the bass plugin to generate that low bass energy. So basically you use it together for a bass part that's warmer and occupies a bigger low end space to kind of fill up the song. So take a listen here. Okay, if I remove it. Okay, if you just listen to the bass effects, yeah, so together they work well. This is the main guitar part for the chorus. With the cello. So the Rhodes 2 come in here. Let's take a listen. I believe I used the Soundtoys Panman to create this panning automation. This is how the plugin looks like. And it can do an automation on the panning on the left, right. So I think I did that. And so you can see that this is already bounced into the audio. So you can see that it's hovering left and right. Yeah, and just by listening to it, I can tell that we added quite a bit of saturation into this Rhodes. You know, just kind of dirtying it up, and a little bit of saturation and distortion can kind of help it has its own place within the arrangement. Yeah, as you can tell, the notes that this particular instrument is playing is actually very simple. But I think the lesson here is that how do we put a spin on the sound? By just pressing these notes, it's simple. Part of the reason is by choice, because that particular artist was quite young, and to convey an innocence in a song using kind of simple musical choices as far as the notes and chords is a great way to do it. But now, if you have something that's very simple, then how can you have depth in the song? So that's where you can use certain production processing to come in. So for example, this Rhodes, you can tell that we use a tremolator. That's why it's hovering the volume. So this is the tremolator by Soundtoys. Yeah, and it's kind of hard to tell because right now the audio is already kind of bouncing up and down from the tremolator. But like, let's say if I have it like very fast. Yeah, so as you can tell, tremolator actually basically automates the volume of it, and then the Panman automates the left and right. So with a combination of these tools, it can turn a boring Rhodes sound into something a little bit more interesting to get the listener to be more intrigued. Yeah, the shaker is just very simple. Yeah. So I added this guitar part in the post-chorus, and then we also have these we call guitar pause here. Now, as you can tell, it's also, you know, panning left and right. So let's listen to the high note. So yeah, these are just recorded off the acoustic guitar, and basically it's a part that support this main groove, right? So in a full song, you might not hear it, but you definitely feel it. It actually gives it that pulse and pacing so that it has more energy. Here's the low. We actually created this using a plugin, more like a sub plugin, so that it actually just takes what is in the guitar and create the part that is an octave lower. So if you play it together, it's perfectly in sync, and it gives that energy on like the low mid as well. Yeah. now on to A2. A2 is actually quite similar, but with the exception that there's a Rhodes part that comes in. So let's take a listen. I actually really like this Rhodes 1 part. The whole idea is that I wanted something that still is quite similar to how the first verse sounded, but add, just one instrument and kind of set the stage and giving it a lot more emotions and storytelling, basically. Because the song is actually about kind of like a first love, or just someone that's kind of fairly new to the concept of love for an artist that's very young. Having that Rhodes part, of course, Rhodes has is draw in terms of it's kind of like a bell-like sound. It has that appeal, and then but it can also do the storytelling, especially in this A2B part. So let's take a listen to B2. I think there's some new elements here. Yeah, so this is actually quite common in pop production. Just strumming the acoustic guitar actually already adds a layer that's just another layer of depth and width to the entire thing. If I mute it, you can hear it very clearly. Yeah, okay, with it. And then we have this guitar pulse going as well. There are these guitar fills. So the guitar fills just adds that extra energy, Of course, depending on the part you make, sometimes an amazing guitarist, they can just play those chords. Let's say they play this, and on top of that, they can also do the fills. But sometimes for a song like this part is already very busy. So you have a separate track where you're doing just the fills can already really help the whole song. Yeah, and I want to take your attention to this right here. The guitar strum L and R. This is actually just the guitar kind of having the guitarist mute the strings, but strum it so that it hits those accent points. Okay, what it does is it helps this rhythm. If I mute it, it feels like it's just one guitar playing. But if I have it together, suddenly the whole thing feels a lot punchier. Actually, if you listen to this part right here at the end, it's very obvious. So if I mute this drum part, okay, with it. You feel like the guitar player is actually playing a lot louder, but actually it's just because we recorded this track right here. Yeah, so and then there's this pulse. Yeah, so next time if you're doing a song where you have acoustic guitar and you're like, how come I want to make it more crisp, more like punchy and like aggressive. Having these separate tracks that you're muting the strings, you're giving it just the attack can help it a lot. Of course, you got to make sure you're playing it, the rhythm wise has to be very locked in with the actual guitar part. So, or else it's just going to be, very muddy and chaotic. But yeah, other than that, I think that's just a cool trick to use in your own production. I think that's basically it for this song. It's minimalistic arrangement, not many instrument parts, but give each part its care and its own texture and own vibe, and I think it can go a long way. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you're a producer or songwriter who wants to start learning how to land major label placements with artists, I made a step-by-step blueprint for you. It's completely free inside our community. I'll put a link here and in the description below. Hope to see you inside.